It's time to talk about the first deck I ever won a tournament with. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to my 5,000 subscribers special. Thank you, my friends. We have done it. So, for the 4,000 subscriber special, we talked about the green deck that I played back in the day when I had first started. So for this one, since we're in the year of Magic history, we're doing Perps history here. We're going to be talking about the very first tournament that I won and the deck that I played. So the year was 1994. The man was a boy. I was a wee boy playing Magic the Gathering, and I remember I was in high school and I had one of those epiphany moments. I remember how this deck actually came to be. Now, first of all, let me just go through the full deck list. And guys, when I started pulling up the card images for this, I was doing it on one of those price search websites. So as a result, I saw the prices for the cards as well. It's insane to think about how expensive it would be to build this deck. And no one would want to build an exact copy of it either because it's a big old wonky contraption. Let's go through it. So we're going to start with the stuff from the restricted list. We've got regrowth. So there's only, for those of you who don't know, the restricted list, you could only have one copy of each of these in your deck. So I had regrowth, Black Lotus, Mox Pearl, Mox Sapphire, Fast Bond, Soul Ring, Ivory Tower, Chaos Orb, Cyclopean Tomb. Now, Chaos Orb and Cyclopean Tomb weren't restricted at the time. Those are just ones that I happen to have one of. Tormod's Crypt, which, this is something that's interesting. There was an official list of what was restricted and banned, but each store also had its own list, and it would have its own variants on it. So Tormod's Crypt was actually restricted at the store I went to, because people really didn't like having their graveyards removed from the game. It's pretty funny. That wasn't normally restricted anywhere else as far as I know, but it was definitely restricted where I played. Balance, which is ironically one of the most unbalanced cards in the entire game. Candelabra of Tawnos, which may not have been restricted at the time. Time Walk, which definitely was restricted at the time. Maze of Ith, which was something that was restricted at the store that I went to. And Felden's Cane. That one was just restricted across the board. So in terms of those cards, the big money cards, the Lotus is $7,500. The Pearl would be $1,600. The Mox Sapphire, $2,500. The Chaos Orb would cost you $550 right now. $55 on the Cyclopean Tomb, $600 for the Candelabra of Tawnos, and $1,800 for the Time Walk. And that's just talking about the one-ofs in the deck. We've already gone well over $10,000 for this deck that I played. It was absurd as I started to put the deck list down to look at these prices. Now, we've looked at most of the really expensive stuff, in all honesty. Moving on to the cards that there are more than one copy of. The key component of the deck, the thing it was all built around, was Time Twister. Now, Time Twister was officially restricted on, like, the main Magic list, but at the store I went to, for some reason, it was not. You were allowed to play with multiple copies. So I had 3 Time Twisters in the deck, all right? Then I had 2 Life Forces, 2 Sleight of Minds. Now, Time Twisters now are $1,500 each. They're $1,500. 2 Life Forces, 2 Sleight of Minds, 4 Swords to Plowshares, 4 Power Sinks, 2 James Tomes, 4 Wrath of Gods, 3 Storm Seekers, a Nova Pentacle, 4 Millstones, 2 Amnesias, 4 Nevinyrral's Discs, 2 Karmas, 2 Magical Hacks, 4 Counterspells, and 4 Boomerangs. So, for those of you who are paying a lot of attention, you're going to notice that sounds like a lot more than the 40 or 36 cards to go with your lands. Well, first of all, we did a straight up deal where it was 2 cards land. So if you played a 60 card deck, it would be 40-20. It would be 40 cards, 20 lands, basically. But with this, I never cared. I went above and beyond that. So the land breakdown was I had 4 of each of the duals that made sense for the deck because it was a green, white, blue deck. So I had 4 Tundras, 4 Tropicals, 4 Savannas, and each of those lands, the Tundras and Tropical Islands, are both worth $280 a piece, $120 for the Savannas as well. So just for these play sets of lands, that's thousands and thousands of more dollars. I had 4 Mishra's Factories. Those, because they were the Antiquities ones that I played with, are like $60, $70 cards each. And then I had some cheap lands like Hollow Trees from Fallen Empires, which were a huge part of my strategy, and a Teleria from Legends, which removes banning and bans with others. And I figured, screw it, you're going to have some islands in there. Why not have this? It's like an island plus. I really saw no downside to it. And other than that, I had like three of each of the basic land types, like islands, plains, and forests for the deck, okay? So the basic idea behind the deck was, one day I was on my way to high school. I had seen Time Twister and Regrowth, and it clicked in my brain that if you played Time Twister, you get to shuffle everything back into your deck, but then the Time Twister sits in your graveyard, and then you can play Regrowth and you'll get Time Twister back. And that creates like an infinite loop of cards where your deck can go on forever. Now this blew my mind. I remember stopping mid-walk down the sidewalk going, whoa, because there was no internet back then. You couldn't go and learn all this. You had to piece things together yourself, right? So it just dawned on me that you could do that. And in the little booklet that I was looking through, it said, oh, you know, it's restricted so you can only play one of each. And I was like, okay, cool. But when I looked at the official restricted list at the store, it was like Time Twister wasn't on it. So I was like, say what now? So I traded for multiple copies of Time Twister. The idea behind the deck was I wanted to slowly but surely take your entire deck away from you. So how I was going to do that was I was going to play Swords to Plowshares to remove your creatures from the game. I was going to counter your spells to get them into the graveyard. I was going to use the Millstone, which takes cards off the top of your deck, puts them in the graveyard. I was going to use those as well to get spells into your graveyard. And then I was going to play the one copy of Tormod's Crypt to remove your whole graveyard from the game so that all those cards couldn't come back. And we would just keep Time Twistering through as many cyclings as it took for me to eventually remove everything, all the threats, all the goodness from the game, basically, until you had nothing left. And I had weird, wonky ways of trying to protect my setup. Like I had Life Force in there, right? Which is a green enchantment. You pay 2 green, counter target black spell. But I also played Sleight of Mind so that I could permanently change the color that Life Force was set to counter. So if you were playing a red deck, I could set it to red to counter your stuff. And that's where the Hollow Trees came in. Because they would sit there tapped all the time, building up green mana on them. And then I had the Candelabra of Tawnos, so I could untap the Hollow Trees at a moment's notice, and then tap it for a bunch of green mana and counter all your stuff. Like, it was just all this, like, there was so many powerful cards in the deck, and so many wonky cards in the deck. Like, I had Cyclopean Tomb in there to slowly but surely turn all your lands into swamp, and I had Karmas in there so you would take damage from those. Even though my goal was to mainly run you out of cards, I did have a few damage paths to victory. I had Karmas, which would do damage equal to the number of swamps your opponent had, and I played Magical Hack so I could change it to whatever land type your opponent was playing. And since I was playing 3 different colors and I could control when it happened, I figured it wouldn't matter even if it, you know, my opponent was playing the same kind of colors. So I had that to do damage, and I had 3 copies of Stormseeker, which is an instant which will do damage to your opponent equal to the number of cards in their hand. So basically the idea was I could also let the Hollow Trees get a massive amount of mana on them, untap it, and use it to cast 3 Stormseekers after a Time Twister to do 21 damage to my opponent. So basically I had a bunch of counter spells to back that up. I had stuff like Wrath of Gods to wipe the board, Nova Pentacles to keep their creatures off me. I had things like Amnesia, and Amnesia seems really expensive because it's 6 mana to make your opponent discard their hand, right? But if you get a first turn Lotus and a Mox or 2, sometimes you can hit them with it on the first turn. It's absolutely broken. And the Nev's Discs also helped wipe the board. So basically, it was a lot of stall tactics and not really trying to kill you, just really trying to get as much as humanly possible into your graveyard, remove your graveyard from the game, and then reset my resources so I could do it to you again. And it was just this grind you down mentally, sort of like, it's not about winning outright, because even if I had the triple Stormseeker Time Twister combo to kill him, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to grind him. I was a prick. I was a 15-year-old prick, apparently with something to prove, where it's like, get wrecked, I'm gonna grind you. So I would just, these games would go on for an hour, and I would just absolutely dominate the board, to the point where even when ridiculous stuff that was against me happened, like I had my Cyclopean Tomb out in one game, I had turned every one of my opponent's lands into swamps. So he was completely color screwed, couldn't do anything. I put out the Chaos Orb, threw it, it landed, and destroyed my own Cyclopean Tomb, alright? I lost my Cyclopean Tomb, destroyed my own permanent. The only time I ever played a Chaos Orb in an event, I destroyed my own stuff with it. I still ended up winning that entire tournament with this big, clunky, ridiculous deck. I loved it. I had the time of my life. But looking at it, it's so absurd. To build this deck, guys, it would cost you $30,000 if you wanted to play and have the same experience. And that's kind of crazy. And I think it's kind of crazy, and I think it's kind of sad, because the prices of Magic cards are getting really bad. And now, my friends, we go to the fun part where we move the guilds to represent the 5,000 subscribers. So let's head on over there. What direction are we going in this time? I'm not going to tell Carly. She's going to figure out what she's editing. Up, up, and away! I gave it away. All right, my friends, here's the fun part where we get to move the guilds, and today we are moving the Grull to signify 5,000. So let's free up the guild. Oh, these stickers are getting a little old. You can see them leaving a little bit. I mean, this is from Dragon Maze days, right? Come on, Grull. Come on, don't fight me, you wild ones. Oh, I heard you were a wild one. All right, where are you on here? Grull! Yeah, there we go. Grull, guys. And next up, it'll be the Boros right here. See these guys? They'll make the journey next. When we hit 6,000 subscribers, then we'll be reckoning with the Boros. Get it? If you guys know Boros Reckoner, that was a magic joke. Thumbs up. Now, back over to me in a downwards direction. All right, everybody. Well, we have moved the guilds. We've had our little history time with Old Man Purple. I want to say from the bottom of my heart, my black, dark, evil, tar-filled heart, that I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with me. I'm having a fantastic time. And here's to 5,000 more. Wait, why did I do that part? I meant 5,000. No, sorry, guys. The reboot didn't work either. 5,000. See you later.
Mike, congratulations on 5K subs, my dude.
Now go eat more shit. And together, we are the 6th color of magic.